All right, everyone. We're going to start. Welcome to Tales at Night. This is your library happy hour, and we are the Winnipeg Public Library.
Welcome to Tales at Night, from home. While you would normally find us on the stage at the Goodwill Social Club, reading aloud stories for adults, these days we are following the advice from our public health professionals, and just like you, we are staying home. We are thrilled to still be able to present our Tales at Night Storytime program for grown-ups, from our homes to yours. Enjoy. Please note, these stories are written and read aloud for adults and are not recommended for children.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Tales at Night from Home. My name is Trevor, and normally you'd find me at the Louisville Library, but today I am at home. Today I'm going to read to you an essay by David Sedaris. When we do the Tales at Night at the Goodwill Social Club, it became a bit of a tradition for me to read a David Sedaris essay each time. So this one was one of the favorites. It's called Keeping Up, and it's from his collection, When You Are Engulfed in Flames. David Sedaris is an American essayist and who is a regular contributor to NPR's This American Life. At the time of this story taking place, he and his partner Hugh were living in Paris. Keeping Up. My street in Paris is named for a surgeon who taught at the nearby medical school and discovered an abnormal skin condition, a contracture that causes the fingers to bend inward, eventually turning the hand into a full-time fist. It's short, the street, no more or less attractive than anything else in the area, yet vacationing Americans are drawn here, compelled for some reason to stand beneath my office window and scream at one another. For some, the arguments are about language. A wife had made certain claims regarding her abilities. "I've been listening to tapes," she said, or perhaps, "all those Romance languages are pretty much alike, so what with my Spanish, we should be fine." But then people would use slang or ask unexpected questions, and things began to fall apart. "Well, you're the one who claimed to speak French." I hear this all the time, and I look out the window to see a couple standing toe to toe on the sidewalk. "Well, yeah," a woman will say. "Well, at least I try." "Well, try harder, damn it. No one knows what the hell you're saying." Geographical arguments are the second most common. People notice that they've been on my street before, maybe a half an hour ago, when they only thought they were tired and hungry and needed to find a bathroom. "For God's sake, Philip, would it kill you just to ask somebody?" I lie on my couch thinking, why don't you ask? How come Philip has to do it? Why don't you ask? Can we just add this or just, okay. Okay, pause. Geographical arguments are the second most common. People notice that they've been on my street before, maybe a half an hour ago, when they only thought they were tired and hungry and needed to find a bathroom. "Oh, for God's sake, Philip, would it kill you just to ask somebody?" I lie on my couch thinking, well, why don't you ask? How come Philip has to do it all? But these things are often more complicated than they seem. Maybe Philip was here 20 years ago and has been claiming to know his way around. Maybe he's one of those who refuse to hand over the map, or refuse to even pull it out, lest he look like a tourist. The desire to pass is loaded territory and can lead to the ugliest sort of argument there is. You want to be French, Mary Frances, that's your problem, but instead you're just another American. I went to the window for that one and saw a marriage disintegrate before my eyes. Poor Mary Frances in her beige beret. Back at the hotel it had probably seemed like a good idea, but now it was ruined and ridiculous. A cheap felt pancake sliding off the back of her head. She'd done the little scarf thing too, not caring that it was summer. It could have been worse, I thought. She could have been wearing one of those striped boater shirts, but as it was pretty bad. It was a costume, really. Some vacationers raised the roof. They don't care who hears them. But Mary Frances spoke in a whisper. This, too, was seen as pretension and made her husband even angrier. "Americans," he repeated, "we don't live in France. We live in Virginia. Vienna, Virginia. Got it?" I looked at this guy, and I knew for certain that if we'd met at a party, he'd have claimed to live in Washington, D.C., ask for his street address, and he'd just look away, mumbling, "Oh, well, just outside D.C." When fighting at home, an injured party can retreat to a separate part of the house or step into the backyard to shoot at cans. But outside my window, the options are limited to crying, sulking, or storming back to the hotel. "Oh, for Christ's sake," I hear. "Can we please just try to have a good time?" This is like ordering somebody to find you attractive, and it doesn't work. I've tried it. Most of Hugh's and my travel arguments have to do with pace. I'm a fast walker, but he has longer legs and likes to maintain a good 20-foot lead. To the casual observer, he would appear to be running from me, darting around corners, intentionally trying to lose himself. When asked about my latest vacation, the answer is always the same. In Bangkok, in Ljubljana, in Budapest, and Bonn. What did I see? Hugh's back, just briefly, as he disappeared into a crowd. I'm convinced that before we go anywhere, he calls the Board of Tourism and asks what style and color of coat is the most popular among the locals. If they say, for example, a navy windbreaker, he'll go with that. It's uncanny the way he blends in. When we're in an Asian city, I swear he actually makes himself shorter. I don't know how, but he does. There's a store in London that sells travel guides alongside novels that take place in this or that given country. The idea is that you'll read the guide for facts and then read the novel for atmosphere. It's a nice thought, but the only book I'll ever need is Where's Waldo? All my energy goes into keeping track of Hugh, and as a result, I don't get to enjoy anything. The last time this happened, we were in Australia, where I'd gone to attend a conference. Hugh had all of the free time in the world, but mine was limited to 4 hours on a Saturday morning. There's a lot to do in Sydney, but first on my list was a visit to the Taronga Zoo, where I hoped to see a dingo. I never saw that Meryl Streep movie, and as a result, the creature was a complete mystery to me. For someone to say, "I left my window open and a dingo flew in," I would have believed it. And if he had said, "Dingoes, our pond is completely overrun with them," I would have believed that as well. Two-legged, four-legged, finned, or feathered, I simply had no idea. Which is actually kind of exciting, a rarity in the age of 24-hour nature channels. Hugh offered to draw me a picture, but having come this far, I wanted to extend my ignorance just a little bit longer, to stand before the cage or the tank and see this thing for myself. It would be a glorious occasion, and I didn't want to spoil it at the 11th hour. I also didn't want to go alone. This was where our problem started. Hugh had spent most of his week swimming and had dark circles beneath his eyes, twin impressions left by his goggles. When in the ocean, he goes up for hours, passing the lifeguard buoys and moving into international waters. It looks as though he's trying to swim home, which is embarrassing. You're the one left on shore with your hosts. No, he honestly does like it here, I'd say. Really. Had it been raining, he might have willingly joined me, but as it was, Hugh had no interest in dingoes. It took a solid hour of whining to change his mind, and even then his heart wasn't really in it. Anyone could see that. He took a ferry to the zoo, and while on board, he stared longingly at the water and made little paddling motions with his hands. Every second wound him tighter, and when he landed, I literally had to run to keep up with him. The koala bears were just a blur. That's where the visitors who stood before them posing for photos. "Can we just..." I wheezed, but Hugh was rounding the emus and couldn't hear me. He has the most extraordinary sense of direction I've ever seen in a mammal. Even in Venice, where the streets were seemingly designed by ants, he left the train station, looked once at a map, and led us straight to our hotel. An hour after checking in, he was giving instructions to strangers, and by the time we had left, he was suggesting shortcuts to gondoliers. Maybe he smelled the dingoes. Maybe he'd seen their pen from the window of the plane, but whatever his secret, he ran straight to them. I caught up a minute later and bent down from the waist to catch my breath. Then I covered my face, stood upright, and slowly parted my fingers. Seeing first the fence, and then behind it, a shallow moat filled with water. I saw some trees and a tail. Then I couldn't stand it anymore, and I dropped my hands. "Why, they look just like dogs," I said. Are you sure we're in the right place? Nobody answered, and I turned to find myself standing beside an embarrassed Japanese woman. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were the person I brought halfway around the world. First class. The zoo is a good place to make a spectacle of yourself, as the people around you have creepier, more photogenic things to look at. A gorilla pleasures himself while eating a head of iceberg lettuce, and it's much more entertaining than the 40-something-year-old man who dashes around talking to himself. For me, that talk is always the same, a rehearsal of my farewell speech. Because this time, buddy, it's over. I mean it. I imagine myself packing a suitcase, throwing stuff in without bothering to fold it. If you find yourself missing me, you might want to get a dog. Maybe an old fat one that can run to catch up and make that distant panting sound you've grown so accustomed to. Me, though, I'm finished. I'll walk out that door and I'll never look back. Never return his calls. Never even open his letters. The pots and pans, all the things that we acquired together, you can have them. That's how unfeeling I will be. Clean start. That's my motto. So what do I need with a shoebox full of photographs or that tan-colored belt he gave me for my 33rd birthday, back when we first met, and he did not yet understand that a belt is something you get from your aunt, not your boyfriend. I don't care who made it. After that, though, he got pretty good at the gift-giving department. A lifelike mechanical hog covered in real pigskin, a professional microscope offered at the height of my arachnology phase, and best of all, a 17th century painting of a Dutch peasant changing a dirty diaper. Those things I would keep. And why not? I'd also take the desk he gave me, and the fireplace mantle, and just on principle, the drafting table, which he clearly bought for himself and tried to pass off as a Christmas present. Now it seemed I would be leaving in a van rather than on foot, but still, I was going to do it, so help me. I pictured myself pulling away from the front of our building, and then I remembered I don't drive. He would have to do it for me, and, well, he should after everything he put me through. Another problem was where this van might go. Well, an apartment, obviously, but how would I get to it? It's all I can do to open my mouth at the post office, so how am I going to talk to a real estate agent? The language aspect has nothing to do with it, as I'm no more likely to be house hunting in New York than I am in Paris. When discussing sums over $60, I tend to sweat, not just on my forehead, but all over. 5 minutes at the bank, and my shirt is transparent. 10 minutes, and I'm stuck to my seat. I lost 12 pounds getting the last apartment, and all I had to do was sign my name. You handled the rest of it. On the bright side, I have money, though I'm not exactly sure how to get my hands on it. Bank statements arrive regularly, but I don't open anything that's not personally addressed or doesn't look like a free sample. He takes care of all that, opening the icky mail and actually reading it. He knows when our insurance payments are due, when it's time to renew our visas, when the warranty on the washer is about to expire. And I don't think we need to extend this, he'll say, knowing that if a machine stops working, he'll fix it himself, the way he fixes everything. But not me. If I lived alone and something broke, I would just work around it. I'd use a paint bucket instead of a toilet. I'd buy an ice chest and turn the dead refrigerator into an armoire. Call a repairman? Never. Do it myself? That'll be the day. I've been around for nearly half a century, yet still I'm afraid of everything and everyone. A child sits beside me on a plane and I make conversation, thinking how stupid I must sound. The downstairs neighbors invite me to a party, and after claiming that I have a previous engagement, I spend the entire evening confined to my bed, afraid to walk around because they might hear my footsteps. I don't know how to turn up the heat, send an email, call the answering machine for my messages, or do anything even remotely creative with a chicken. Hugh takes care of all of that. And when he's out of town, I eat like a wild animal. The meat's still pink with hair or feathers clinging to it. So is it any wonder that he runs from me? No matter how angry I get, it always comes down to this. I'm going to leave, and then what? Move in with my dad? 30 minutes of pure rage, and when I finally spot him, I realize that I've never been so happy to see anyone in my life. There you are, I say, and when he asks where I have been, I answer honestly and tell him I was lost.